Hi, I'm Danny Brown. I'm the CEO of Myriad Real Estate Group here in Phoenix, Arizona. Today we are talking about the pros and cons of living in an HOA. So an HOA is a homeowners association, and it's basically a governing board for the neighborhood or the community that you live in. It's oftentimes run by a property management company and sometimes can be made up of actual people who live within the community. Many people who live in HOAs will say that when they're paying those bills, they're not paying for anything. But basically, HOAs became very common in the greater Phoenix area starting kind of in the 90s. And really, I think it became mandatory that when a community was being built, the cities required that those builders or those communities established a homeowners association, because it got the cities out of having to cover and maintain parks, the sidewalks, and kind of all the infrastructure within the community. So it saves the cities a lot of money by having homeowners associations, and they're going to maintain things like your parks, any playgrounds that are in the parks. If you're in a gated community, then it's the gate, community pools, all of those things. The more amenities your HOA offers, the higher your monthly fee is going to be. So some of the pros to living in a neighborhood that has an active HOA are they're going to make sure that everybody's landscaping is taken care of, that they put their trash cans away, that they don't paint their home neon green, that everything kind of has a uniformed and updated and clean look. They will approve if somebody wants to change something to the architectural style of their home or the landscaping. The HOA has to approve that because they don't want it to make the community look bad and potentially bring down values. So they're almost like the property police within your community. Personally, I hate HOAs. I live in a community that doesn't have an HOA, so it's a much older neighborhood built prior to the 90s, because I don't want someone to tell me what I can and can't do with my home. If I want to have a shed or build a structure, as long as it meets the city ordinances, I want to be able to do what I want to with my home. And so, living in an HOA, you're not going to be able to do that. They're going to restrict you from doing the things that you want to do. I personally feel like there's more cons to an HOA than pros, but unfortunately, if you want to live in a newer home in a newer community, it's just something that we all kind of have to deal with. Ultimately, one of the biggest cons to an HOA is it's going to cost you more money on a monthly basis, annual basis, however your particular HOA charges those fees. And the more benefits you get, the higher the pricing is going to be too. So the larger your home, the higher the pricing is going to be for your HOA. There's going to always be HOA fees when it comes to townhomes and condos, and those are going to be substantially higher than single-family homes because they cover more. So when you're in a condo or a townhome, typically wrapped into your HOA is going to be water, sewer, trash. So you're not going to have a separate bill from the city for those things. You oftentimes get what's called a blanket insurance policy. So what that means is if your neighbor's home burns down and it burns down yours, your individual homeowner's insurance doesn't need to rebuild your home. The HOA's insurance will. Your individual homeowner's insurance is almost like renter's insurance and covers all your stuff on the interior walls. They oftentimes will cover the landscaping that are within those communities. Most of these communities have pools, so those pools, any of you that own a pool know that they need constant maintenance and repairs. Well, the HOA is going to take that on, and that's wrapped into your fees as well. Some of your higher end condo subdivisions, some of the ones that are here in Central Phoenix, have 24/7 guard on duty. They have a concierge service. They have really nice gyms included. So you can get into HOAs that are $500 to $1,000 a month because they have all these additional amenities included. So when it comes to your HOA, not only are they going to charge you your regular monthly fees, they're also, when you go to sell, going to charge you what are called transfer and disclosure fees. So a disclosure fee is required in the state of Arizona to be paid for by the seller, and it maxes out at $400. So every sale that we've done that's in an HOA, the HOA charges $400 to the seller because that's the max that they can do. It's usually not less. It's always at $400. There is a transfer fee that they also charge. That is negotiable between buyers and sellers. So in a buyer's market, it's very typical for the seller to pay that, and in a seller's market, it's very typical for a buyer to pay that fee. What you get for those fees, I don't know. They just charge them. Then oftentimes HOAs will charge what's called a capital improvement fee. And that is just a fee that they charge for processing the sale to basically put money in their savings accounts to help cover future improvements that the HOA wants to do. And then sometimes, now the community will need to vote on this one, a special assessment will get charged. And that is for a particular project that the HOA in the community has deemed necessary. Prime example would be resurfacing a pool. So the pool in the community, it's degraded and it needs to be resurfaced. If they don't have enough money in their savings account, then the community may vote to do a special assessment so that you take the cost of that project, divide it out by the number of people that are there, and then have a beginning date and an end date of how long they will charge that fee for. So it's broken down per month. If you sell during that time, you could pay off your entire assessment, or the assessment could be transferred to the incoming buyer. So a lot of these fees can be negotiated during the sale. The only one that's not is the disclosure fee. So if you're buying a home that's in an HOA, the title company is going to send you what are called CC&Rs. And those are basically the rules of the homeowners association. Once you receive that, and it'll come via email, and usually comes with the title commitment and will be a link. So you have to look for it. And from the day you receive that, you have 5 days to review everything that's in the CC&Rs to make sure that you're okay with it. If you're not, then you can cancel the contract and get a refund of your earnest deposit and move on. So it's very important during that time frame to review those, and that's where you're going to learn everything about the homeowners association and what rules that they have. So common rules that the HOAs are going to enforce is definitely going to be landscaping. So they want to make sure that you don't have any weeds. If you have plants that die, some HOAs have a requirement that you have to have a certain number of plants in your yard at all times. So if a plant dies, you have to replace it. Trash cans, so your trash cans typically can't sit out overnight, otherwise you get a nasty gram from them in the mail. Some of them don't allow parking in your driveway or the street overnight, and so you've got to move your car. So every HOA is going to have a different set of rules, and these are found in what are called CC&Rs. As when you buy a home, the title company will send you a copy of the CC&Rs that will explain all of the rules of that HOA. So for example, if you're buying a home with the intent of turning it into a rental property, you should make sure that that community allows rental properties. Big one right now are vacation rental homes. Many HOAs, in fact, almost all of them, have a minimum time frame of which a home can be rented out, and that's 30 days. So you can't do vacation rentals in many of these communities. So every community is going to have different rules. Definitely pay attention to those CC&Rs. Another one is animals. So they could restrict you on the size of a dog that you have, or even the breed, or if you can even have pets, period. Most of them will allow for pets. I've only ever seen it in retirement communities where they don't allow for animals. But outside of that, most of them will allow pets, but they oftentimes have size or breed restrictions. If your intent is to purchase the property as an investment home and it's in an HOA, you definitely want to review those CC&Rs to see what the rental requirements are, because oftentimes they're going to want to review your lease agreement that you're having signed so that they know who's living in their community and the term. So most HOAs, especially here in Phoenix, if they're if it is turning into a rental, they have a minimum time frame at which it can be rented out, and that's typically 30 days, which makes turning it into a vacation rental pretty much against the rules. So people cheat those rules all the time, but once you get found out, it's not good. So you typically don't want to buy a vacation rental home in a community that has an HOA, because those rules can change at any time and could really affect that investment that you made. One of the other things about a homeowners association is if you decide not to pay them the monthly fee or any fines, the HOA has the right to put a lien against your property, which ultimately could affect the sale, and you'd have to pay them off from your proceeds in order for the sale to go through. If the lien against the property has been there long enough, the HOA actually has the right to foreclose on you and take ownership of the property in order to pay off those fines or dues. So they always win. They're always going to get their money. It's just the nature of HOAs. So there's a lot of pros and cons when it comes to HOAs. And again, if you're going to be purchasing something that was built in 1990 to today, or in a townhome or condo subdivision, it's just the nature of owning real estate. You're probably going to have to deal with the homeowners association. And so when you are buying it, make sure that you're reviewing those CC&Rs, but also make sure you're reviewing the HOA's financials, because you want to make sure that the HOA is not spending more than they're bringing in, because that can absolutely affect on whether or not any special assessments come up or capital improvement fees get added on. And if the HOA is also in any litigations, which I have seen where HOAs sue builders for not building properly, any of that type of stuff, it can absolutely affect the saleability of the home in the future. So bear that in mind as well. Thank you so much for watching our video. If you found this useful, please like and subscribe. And again, I'm Danny Brown with Myriad Real Estate Group.